Well, thank you so much for having me back in the form of a speaker. I attended my first session with the Chamber a few months back last year and really enjoyed meeting a lot of you. I recognized faces, and we had a session that day on diversity and inclusion that was very good, and enjoyed the topic, the speaker, and especially the interaction with everybody that's in this room. That was very inspiring. So I'm very happy to be back and to be able to speak to you today. This is also one of my very first days on my feet. I had Achilles tendon reconstruction done on November the 10th. So I'm excited to be up and mobile, and although I still have tennis shoes on, but I'm excited to be up and mobile and be able to talk to you today. So we're going to get started. Artificial intelligence and the future of work. I am probably as excited about hearing what you have to say, more so than you may be excited about what I have to say. Our goals for today, we're going to do just a general introduction about artificial intelligence, and that's going to be kind of polling the audience as well about what you know about artificial intelligence, what your current usage is of artificial intelligence, etc. And I've already learned from my table over here that we've got some expertise in the room, and then we probably have some who consider themselves not very tech savvy at all. I've already heard from some of them as well. Then we're going to discuss the fact that artificial intelligence is considered a disruptive technology. We'll define what that is and talk a little bit about what the current AI development rate is, how quickly it's expanding and growing and progressing. I'll talk a little bit about some surveys that have been done in 2023, and I have a survey for you to do as well, if you will indulge me with that. We'll do that. You'll be able to do that on your smartphone, so we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll talk about the future. That was the whole purpose of this, talking about the future of work. I'm going to give you some takeaways, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes for some Q&A as well. Are there any other goals anybody would like to add to that? All right, so what is AI? I thought we need to come up with a very simple definition to that. The ability of a machine to perform tasks that are commonly associated with intelligent beings. Okay, does anybody have any other definition other than that? Do you think that pretty much covers it? Is that what you think of when you think of artificial intelligence? What is one of the first things that you think of when you think of artificial intelligence? I've had some people tell me Terminator. Yep. I have a team member. I'm actually on a canine search and rescue team, and she's an attorney as well. And when I told her I was going to start expanding into artificial intelligence field, she was like, "Oh, isn't that bad?" You know, so that was one of her first thoughts. And I wonder. And I'm hoping, and my husband mentioned this last night, I hope we're moving away from the fear about artificial intelligence a little bit. Early on last year when we had OpenAI and ChatGPT and then all of the other variations of everything that came out, and we're constantly seeing things roll on our Facebook ads and on LinkedIn, all of the different specialized products that are out there and the startup companies, we were just inundated with artificial intelligence, and it was all over the news. And then we had quotes from Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all of these folks saying the end of the world was coming. Did you feel like it was kind of like drinking from a fire hose? Because I did. I was just inundated with all of this information, and a lot of people really were afraid. I kind of joke about the Terminator, but I have had many people mention to me, okay, what does this mean? Are the robots going to take over the world? Is this going to be the end of the world for us? Am I going to lose my job? That was one of the questions that was asked. And of course, I think sometimes media tends to make us a little more afraid about those things than perhaps we need to be. So there were the existential, is this going to be the end of the world fears that were out there, and then there were the fears about what is this going to do to me in the workplace? What is this going to do? How is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect my child who is in college now? And then later on from there as well. So I think some of those fears have been dispelled, and we're kind of in 2024, we're going to see a little bit of difference. 2023 was kind of weird with how everything rolled out. 2024 is going to be exciting with a lot of changes, but we're gonna get a little better feel on how this is actually going to affect us. Is AI anything new? No, it's really not. AI, and I'm gonna use that as a general description for artificial intelligence in all of its forms, has been around for a very, very long time and was already incorporated into many of the things and many of the tools that we were using. You just didn't realize it. And so there's not a reason for the pervasive fear that's out there. Why is it so important to our future? Anybody have an idea? Is it going away? No. No. This is an advancement. It's a tool. It's no different than when the horse and buggy was replaced by the automobile. It's no different than any other. You could come up with a list a mile long of advancements that have occurred within society. My husband likes to tell the story that we're originally from West Tennessee, the Memphis area, and when he was in junior high, I believe, they did a field trip to Ole Miss to see a computer that filled an entire room at that time, and how things have changed so drastically. And do you think your generations before could have imagined that we would be holding so much power in the palm of our hands? And we'll talk about our smartphones a little bit too in a minute. So disruptive technology, just a quick definition for you, is any innovation that significantly alters the way that consumers, industries, or businesses, you guys, and how we operate. The disruptive technology would sweep away the systems or habits it replaces because it has attributes that are recognizably superior. That's a fancy way of saying it's stuff like e-commerce, online news sites, I'm giving you just a few examples here, ride-sharing apps, GPS systems. We could add more to that list as well. Think about, we don't think anything about those things right now. You know, if you need to ride Uber, you get on your app, you get an Uber. We don't think anything about that. When we get into our cars now, when's the last time you saw a map? We don't. And most people don't even know the directions to places anymore because they use GPS to get there all the time. All of this has been incorporated into our lives so much that it's just a part of it now. And you probably didn't even recognize how quickly it was happening. How many people ordered most of their Christmas from Amazon? Yep, I did. So e-commerce, all of that has changed how businesses work. And you guys are the business leaders in the community. So I'm sure you recognize that and can attest to how that changed how you conduct business. The gentleman over here with the funeral home was talking about obituaries, and I said, I don't know the last time I read an obituary in the paper because I don't read the paper. I read everything online, so I go online if I need any information about that. So what kind of growing pains did we experience with each of these? As business leaders, what kind of growing pains did you have? And what has happened with the newspapers now that's very different from, I remember my parents, our little local newspaper would come out on Thursdays, and so they always would go to the store on Thursday to pick up that newspaper. That doesn't happen much anymore, does it? Or you don't have the paper delivered to your home. Now we have to have a subscription online to be able to read our newspapers, which are no longer primarily in paper print. So you had usage issues, the end user issues with the technology. Did you have any issues with using different technologies associated with these types of changes? There's some learning curves, aren't there? Some learning curves with those. What if you are a boutique owner in downtown Zachary and you have to compete with people ordering stuff from Amazon? Is that a huge issue? That's a huge issue. So these types of changes, this disruptive technology that comes into our lives changes the way we have to do sales, marketing, interacting with our customer base, product development. You know, we could just go on and on and on depending on what business you have and what industry you're involved in. AI is the same. It's another one of these things, another technology that's coming along, and we're going to have to figure out how it's going to impact in the same way these other technologies did, because it's not going to go away. You can see that every day when you pick up one of those newspapers and read about artificial intelligence being incorporated somewhere. So what kind of growing pains do you think exist with AI right now? We talked about the fear that we've had to overcome, and I think that's going away a little bit. It's not as exciting to read about the things online that are being said about the end of the world. Do you have growing pains within your business? You hit it right there. There is precedent for this. This is not new. We've been through this before. One other thing, and I'll reference my husband a lot on this, but he's the one that started me down this road of technology. He loves when the 20-something-year-olds that he works with, all of his programmers and such, like to tell him how incompetent he is as a 50-something-year-old individual working in tech. He's like, it was we guys that developed all this stuff that you're working with right now. So we have precedent for this. This is nothing new. We have all lived through those things there. We all lived in the time before the internet. When it came forward, when the internet came on the scene as the huge disruptive technology that it is, we had to figure out how to navigate it. And now it's such a part of our life, we don't even think about it. You don't even think about it at all. So it's just a matter of applying the things that we have learned in the other times when disruptive technology has occurred within our industries and businesses and organizations, applying those lessons and the experience that we have to this. Speaking of a 20-something-year-old, I had a business meeting with about a 27-year-old owner of a tech firm, and then he talked to the individual who owns the company that I work for, and the owner said, "How'd your meeting go?" "Oh, it was really good meeting. I really like her. She's pretty sharp, especially for a woman of her age." But with that age comes the value and the experience of having gone through all of these things before and understanding how things work and what hasn't worked before, understanding strategic planning, understanding business analysis, and all of those steps. So don't be so intimidated. And a lot of people come up to me and say, "Well, I'm not tech savvy." That really doesn't matter. AI is easy. This is an easy tool to use. What's not easy is how we're going to integrate it within our society and making sure that we do so ethically, making sure that we don't have biases, discrimination, all of the things that already exist, making sure it doesn't exacerbate. Hallucinations. Hallucinations. One of the first hallucination cases that I heard about and is, as an attorney, very important to me. There were attorneys, and you may have read about it, who quoted in their briefs cases that they had researched using, and I think it was ChatGPT that they used, that did not exist. Did not exist. And then they got in a lot of trouble, of course. They continued utilizing those cases even after they were told, you know, this is a problem. These cases don't exist. We looked them up and they're not out there. So instead of resolving the problem, they kind of dug in, and they got sanctioned and so forth after that. But if you use a little common sense, this is just a tool. This is not the end all and be all. You know, utilize it as a research tool, that's fine, but use a little common sense and make sure that what you're looking up is correct. Rate of development. This is very interesting. Way back in 2019, Stanford University conducted some research, and it suggested that AI development is advancing at a pace that surpasses Moore's Law. What's Moore's Law? Moore's Law is a principle that predicts the doubling of the number of transistors on a microchip approximately every 2 years, leading to increased computational power, processor speeds doubling every 8 months to 2 years. That's a fancy way of saying that we're advancing really, really, really fast with computational power. And that generative AI has a rate of development that's even higher than that. So if you'll look down here, the growth rate exceeds the historical trend of Moore's Law with a half-life of 3.4 months. So what does that growth rate indicate to you about AI? It's difficult for most people to kind of wrap their minds around the numbers and exponential growth, but think about it like a snowball that's rolling down a hill. At first it starts really small, and then it continues rolling, and what happens to it? It picks up more snow along the way, and then it continues growing, getting bigger and bigger and faster, and the speed increases and so forth. And that's what's happening with generative AI right now. And probably is one of the reasons that people have so much fear about it as well, because it's growing exponentially. And look at the number of startup companies that started in this last year. It was just constant. So I understand why there's confusion and fear. Here's the survey that I mentioned to you. If you want to take a picture there, use your phone, your smartphone. The survey is very small. If you don't want to do it, I understand, but please indulge me and let me know if you have any trouble with it. You can do that while I'm talking. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the data that we had from this last year. This same survey that I use with other businesses, I found, surprisingly, that individuals are still very, very uncertain about AI. I thought they would be further along. Most of them, their companies, their businesses, the leaders had not offered them any training or any guidance about what to do with AI. I've had some teachers take this survey who have lamented the fact that they haven't been offered the guidance that they thought that they needed about how to utilize AI in the classroom. So there were some surprises there that kind of let us know that we still have a long way to go as far as getting buy-in on why AI is important and training as well. And I think it's like, I explained it to someone like this one day. We get so caught up in the day-to-day business of running our businesses that we don't have time, or think we don't have time, to look into this, because it is like drinking from a fire hose right now. So you kind of need someone to help you hone in on why is this important, what do I need to do, what are my next steps? And I hope I give you some takeaways to do that. So where are we? What does all this mean, and what do I need to know? So as I mentioned, hopefully we're getting beyond the threats. But the problem is, this looks like a digital transformation that we've been through before, but it acts like a change in management or leadership. This AI, using generative AI, is not like introducing a new system, a new model, or software. My husband has primarily as his project that he works on a software that is utilized by law enforcement. So when a law enforcement entity decides we're going to change over to use this particular software, how does that go down in the law enforcement entity? Someone comes in and says, we're using this now. And then what do? I'm going to train you on how we're going to use this now. And they get it all ready. Everything changes over. Everybody gets signed up. Everybody gets the training. And then they are all using it, right? Now, there might be some growing pains with that, but that's the change that occurs. That's not how AI and the usage of AI is occurring within businesses. You may have one person within a company or organization who really loves it, that I've been talking to along here, and they're utilizing it well, like you and I were talking, and really loving it. And then you have somebody else who maybe thought, oh, I better check this out. And they see the little prompts that are at the bottom on ChatGPT, and it says, look up a good recipe or something like that. And they might play with that a little while. Or they might say, oh, all this image generation that's going on, I'm going to go and see if I can do some really cool headshots of myself. And they play with that a little bit. So there's people that dabble in it, but by and large, what we're seeing within businesses is there's not really leadership, except in a few businesses, that's coming in and saying, this is a good tool, we want you to utilize it, this is why, These are the regulations. This is what we need to make sure is occurring in our policies and procedures. This is not occurring, et cetera. I want you to really buy into this and make it a part of what you're doing within the company. It's just not occurring. Part of that is because there's no user guide. Those of you who are tech savvy probably had no problem at all jumping in and using the tools. How about other folks? Have you found it easy to use the tools that are out there? ChatGPT, for example, I'll say, yeah. It's not hard. This is not hard at all. It's not difficult. You know why? Because all you're doing is talking. It's like you're talking to another person, or it should be like you're talking to another person. I want to talk about primarily why you should be using it as an individual and why you should be utilizing it as a business. The biggest thing, and this is the biggest sell that we're trying to sell folks on right now, increase in productivity and efficiency. You can remove days from your work week by utilizing generative AI. Do you believe that? It's been proven. It's been absolutely proven, especially in areas that involve text and language-based businesses or tasks, like marketing, legal, anything that involves generating a lot of text. A lot of people utilize it the first time to write emails or write marketing material. So that's an example for you there. Here's how you figure out how to use this and increase your productivity. Is there something in your job description that you find yourself always wishing you had more time to which to devote? Marketing is always one that people usually pop up. In nonprofit management, which I was involved with for many years, it was always looking for grants, being able to do the research for grants. I just don't have the time to do that. So those types of things. Or do you have a role in your business or organization that you can't fill due to budget constraints? We really need a X, Y, or Z, but we can't afford one. You might be able to take those tasks and use generative AI to fill that role, and you don't need to put out the budget then to hire a person for that. It becomes a personal assistant in that regard. So somebody for me, think of the most mundane tasks that you do in your job that you have to do every single day. Emails might be one of them. Write emails, okay. Answering phone calls. It's hard when you start thinking about it and you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to challenge you because that's one of the takeaways from this. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if AI can do anything with that.
What's
Banking, QuickBooks?
banking? Oh, yeah, your finances. Yeah. Okay.
AI does that.
It should be good with numbers. Numbers are numbers, right? So, yeah. If you start thinking about it, you can roll off a list of those mundane things that are just taking away time every single day, tick, 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 that I have to do, that I wish I either had a personal assistant that could handle this and do this for me, or I wish I didn't have to do it. Because if I didn't have to do this, then I would have more time to do grant research, or I would have more time for that idea that I thought of last year to research that and see if we could, take on that project. Maybe we could do this new project. That's what the data, the research is saying is the greatest benefit from generative AI right now is productivity, increasing your productivity so that you have time as individuals within a business to accomplish those things. Now, I had a conversation with someone last night. 40 years ago, there was a lot of loyalty to the businesses that you worked for, right? I know when my parents were, when I was growing up and my parents were working, my dad worked for the same company from the time he was 18 years old until he retired. That just doesn't happen anymore, does it? So people aren't quite as worried about what can I do to help my company grow. So if you focus on what can I do as an individual to make my work life better, to make my efficiency and my productivity better, so I can go into my boss and say, hey, look what I'm doing, I think I deserve a raise, then you can sell them on it. And then also, that's going to make the business run better, right? When you have more productive employees, happier employees, more efficient employees, and employees that are coming up with good ideas, new projects, new ways of doing things, innovating, then your business is going to grow. So that's the number one benefit of generative AI. So I challenge you to take your job descriptions and then one day maybe even write down every single thing you do in a day, look at the most mundane tasks, and then figure out how generative AI can help you with it. Because it can, that's the biggest thing it can do. It can take those mundane tasks. How long does it take you to write an email using ChatGPT? Meetings are huge for using generative AI, the transcripts and some other things as well. I have an individual who's a nurse practitioner. She's so excited because now they're using, in different healthcare facilities, they're using it to do their clinical notes. It's like Alexa is in the room with you while you're doing whatever you're doing with your patient. It's recording all of everything that's going on, and then that will be transcribed. So they're not having to go every patient and go over and write in the chart or type in the chart or whatever. Think about how much time that saves. And it does more than that. It's accurate. The transcript's not going to lie to you. And then for us legal folks who want that transcript in case there's a medical malpractice case, man, that makes our life a lot easier. It can help in cases like that. It can keep people more honest about what is going on ethically. A lot of benefits there. Okay, so I held up my computer a minute ago. How many of us have smartphones? Everybody in the room has a smartphone, right? Okay, how many of you use it as a flashlight? I do too. What if you only used it as a flashlight?
Very expensive.
That's a very expensive flashlight I'm holding in my hand, right? How many of you have apps on your phone that you use? What primarily are they? Throw them out. What kind of apps? What?
Social media.
Social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, excuse me. Other things like that. What else? Google. Okay, you use it to browse the internet. Okay, all the things that go along with that. What else? Audible. Okay. We talked about GPS, banking, Amazon, shopping. I'm going to open mine up and kind of see what I've got on here.
Just go look at your screen time.
Yes. Games. Now, I'm not a gamer, so I can't do that one. But,
Security, camera, Ring.
okay. I have just a few here on mine. I've got, I don't mind reading them off to you. I've got Noom, Audible, LinkedIn, Instagram, Telegram, Runnings, Slack, Kindle, Signal, GasBuddy, Etsy, Amazon, another GPS one, the Weather Channel, Zello, Acorns, Switcher, Etsy, Fetch, various airlines, of course my Gmail, and then I do search and rescue, so I've got ones that are specific to that. Lost person behavior, I've got a skeleton app on here, I've got Blue Hound, I've got all of the ones that are specific to that. So we learned how to use all these apps on our phone and not just use it as a flashlight. So the people, last year I was telling people, just dabble. Just get in there, look at ChatGPT and start dabbling. I've quit telling people to do that now because if you're dabbling, all you're doing is using it as a flashlight. You've got to go beyond that. It's not just another search engine. It's, it is a good search engine, as the gentleman here mentioned to me. It's a good search engine, but we already had search engines. It's a better tool than that. So challenge yourself to go a little further and figure out what does this mean to me in my personal life and beyond. The point is, if you don't have a strategic plan as a person, but more importantly as a business, you'll have a few people that are interested enough to do this on their own and to make some changes and become a more productive employee, but for the most part, there's not going to be a significant change in your business. and you're going to fall behind, because there will be a business out there who is making a significant change, and they're coming up with a strategic plan, and they're working with a consultant, and they're bringing in trainers, and they're figuring out how to inspire their workforce to really buy in. So that's my second challenge to you there. If you're in the leadership position, you need to take it seriously. So remember when we discussed disruptive technology, if you're in an industry that's being disrupted and you're not going all in, you're going to be left very, very far behind. And that's just a fact. And even if you think you're doing okay and you're making some changes, compare it to what your competitors are doing. Because you might be making some changes and that's good, but if it's not on the same level that they're doing, you're still behind. So how do we do that? Here's some ideas, and I put them all up here. We're not going to go through all of them, but this is just an idea of the things that are going to be affected the greatest in the coming years. Healthcare is one of the huge fields where AI is involved. It's revolutionizing healthcare all the way from diagnostics to things that are mundane, like I said, the clinical records, the note-taking. I actually have a group that I'm working with that's a multi-country, international group, and we're working on using AI and chatbots to bring mental health care to trauma victims in Ukraine, in Israel, in Gaza, and other places that have been hit by major disasters and so forth, because those individuals are spread far and wide, and mental health resources are very hard to find, period. But they're even more important to have when there's significant trauma, but even harder to find when there are those huge traumatic events like war and disaster. So COVID actually accelerated this for us. With all the negatives of COVID, there's a positive, because we had telehealth that was really embraced at that time. How many of you use telehealth now? I do. Yep, you can even get telehealth resources on Amazon. So, finance. I think I would keep it at second there. Financial institutions are using it already. If they're ahead of the game for fraud detection, risk assessment, customer service. I know everyone gets on and probably talks to a chatbot when you're not talking to a real person anymore, when you are inquiring about bank problems, etc. So finance is definitely one. Retail, all those things that we've mentioned already. Sales, marketing, even cashier-less stores, people like to complain about, but those are definitely a change as well. Manufacturing, that's a big area. Automation, maintenance, quality control. Transportation, now that's one that's had a lot of problems this year. We've had different companies that have had problems with their vehicles and the AI-based systems there, but that is an area that is going to be affected. Education, and this is one of my favorite topics. I was telling some individuals that back in the 80s there were various studies that said we could exponentially increase how children would advance as far as their learning and retaining learning if they had one-on-one tutors. We can't do one-on-one tutors. We don't have enough people to do that. We don't have the resources to do that. We don't have enough teachers to have class sizes that are small enough to accomplish that type of a system. We can with AI. Every child can have a tutor that is specific to what they need. Think about what that means for special needs children that are far behind as far as mathematics, reading. So AI has the potential to really, really change our workforce. I mean, think about these super students that we could produce coming out of our schools. It's no longer that our technology systems within our educational systems need to be concerned with knowing how to use a computer, et cetera, the basic stuff, the hardware stuff. You need to be focusing way higher than that on the kids that are coming out. Problem is, if we don't make sure that we are applying this across the board to the students that are already disadvantaged, we're going to end up with a bigger gap. But that's another topic. Entertainment, we've seen this one. You've seen it already. Energy, agriculture, legal, that's a huge one. Legal is a text-based, a language-based industry. Lots and lots and lots of words. So that's one of those areas, and there's tons of mundane tasks that can be reduced by using AI-powered tools. The insurance industry is huge, and then real estate. Those were 12 that I just came up with right there that can be greatly affected within the next couple of years about AI, and there certainly are more. If your industry has any of those elements that are top of, like customer service, content creation, the words, marketing, education, and a training element to it. If it has any of that involved in it, you are at the top as far as disruption. So think about your business in that terms. So here's your takeaways. As an individual in the workplace, there are 3 things you need to do. First of all, educate yourself and understand the tools. But don't feel like you have to understand it all. There's too much out there. And it starts sounding like white noise after a while, and people get disinterested. And then the second one is something that I already asked you to do. Examine your job description and your tasks, your mundane tasks. Identify those, all those that tend to take too much of your time, typically, and then apply the tools to those tasks. Figure out how to up your productivity, and then track it. See how much time you're saving. As leaders, I got another number 1. That should be 2. As leaders, and this has to come from the C-suite down, educate yourself and understand the tools, develop a strategic plan and a framework. Don't go at this haphazardly. You don't go at anything in your business haphazardly, do you? So you shouldn't go at this haphazardly as well. And then inspire your employees. This is not like adopting a new software. It's not like adopting a new practice within your business where you can come in and say, you have to use this software from now on. This is what we're changing to. It's not that kind of a thing. You've got to inspire them and inspire them to understand what this is going to do for our company and what this is going to do for you as an individual to make you a better employee, etc. And then provide training for your employees. And I'm not talking about hours and hours and hours of training. You can have a 3 or 4 hour training and have experts on how to design the best prompts to get the information that they want. And you could do specific tools as well. A lot of the training that exists right now out there is specific to case studies. They'll come in and say, let me show you how to make a marketing plan. And then they show them how to make a marketing plan. That's good, that's okay, but that's not allowing for the creativity and the expanse that can occur with the use of generative AI. Here's the bottom line though, there are not that many companies that are doing this and are doing it well. So there's still time to jump on and be ahead of the curve. The big companies out there, they're always going to be ahead of the curve, right? The small and the middle-sized businesses are what Next Level, the company that I work for, we like to focus on. And there is so much opportunity for advancement within the small and mid-sized businesses. And they're the ones that need the advantage to be able to compete in the world where you have the larger companies and the larger businesses to compete with. So the issue is buy-in and then changing behavior, because the tool itself is not that difficult, or tools are not that difficult. Here's my contact information, if anybody wants that, and I've got some cards as well. So any questions, comments, thoughts, rebuttals, fears? My biggest soapbox issues are education. I think that's so important. You know, we tend to be at the bottom in Louisiana of every list that's out there.
Thank God for Mississippi.
This is an opportunity to level the playing field. There are very few opportunities within education to really level the playing field. I really, truly believe that artificial intelligence can do it, done responsibly, and to make sure that we don't increase the gaps, because with everything there's the opportunity to do that as well. Healthcare is huge. I don't work for any of the major big hospitals or anything like that. I can't control that, but I can see what happens and understand what's going on and see the benefit of that. But your mid-sized businesses and those of you who are lacking a position within your companies, lacking the time to be able to be innovative and to work on those ideas that are sitting right there in the back of your head, and they're there every year. You think, I wish I had time to do this, or I wish I had the help to do this. Wish I could get an intern to help me with this, or whatever the case may be. This is your personal assistant. You can utilize it that way. It's more than coming up with funny jokes or good recipes or whatever the case may be. It's just a tool.
Something thinking for you.
I hear that a lot. One of my very best friends said, wait a minute, I don't want my kid using this. She doesn't even know how to use a library. I said, why should she have to use the library? I don't use the library anymore. And I worked when I was an undergrad, I worked in the library. When I was in law school, I worked in the library. I love books. I love the smell of books. And I'll go to the library here. I still love the library. But do I use it? No. I use my phone. You know, anytime when we have a question, what do? I say, use the Google. So, no. Now, can you as an individual allow it to limit your growth? Sure, but that's like anything else. It's just another tool to put into your tool belt. Some people are going to be better at using it than others. Some people are going to be lazy. Some people are going to cheat the system. We're going to see that in our universities and in the school system, but that happens with everything. That's happened with every new innovation that's come along. And even before, you know, when kids would write the answers on your hands or on the bottom of your shoe or whatever the case may be. I said it was a simple tool, and it is. It's a very simple tool. But to get the really good stuff out of it, you've got to go beyond just asking the basic questions. And we have to think of it, there's a behavioral change, there's a cultural change that goes on as well. It's not a search engine, like I said, so you can't just ask questions like you do when you're looking up something on Google. You've got to go a little deeper and a little deeper. And man, it is an awesome creative tool to get things going it happens to me all the time because I am a woman of that age. I can't think about something creative, but I can spend a little time and my creative juices start flowing when I'm utilizing it. So that's definitely one of the benefits. What he's talking about is creating your prompts. I don't know if you've heard that terminology before in using it. The questions that you ask, the conversation that you have with it, how you design those prompts can help you get the information that you want. Now that's part of a training, you know, that 3 or 4 hour training that I was talking about there can teach you how to write. And those prompts can be very specific to the area that you're working in as well. And you just, a simple example, and this is not the purpose of this particular presentation, but for example, I can ask my tool to act like a marketing expert. You are a marketing expert working for XYZ company and have designed 25 campaigns that have generated X amount of money. I'm making it really specific. And we have a new product. Our product is not doing well in this market. Can you give me some ideas of why it's not doing well in this market? What type of campaign would you just get as specific as possible, like I'm sitting here talking to him. He's worked in this industry for 25 years. He's my expert. And I want to pull all that information out. So more than just asking, you know, what can I make from chicken and mixed vegetables for supper tonight, those types of things.
Those
Yes,
can be
ma'am.
helpful for really indecisive people.
Yeah, yeah.
At the newspaper, we have set a policy on how to use AI, and one of our issues is ethics, and specifically keeping our information out of the databases.
Yes,
So how are industries like legal and medical?
same types of things.
Okay.
You're setting, it's like I said, this is nothing new. The same policies and procedures that you use for everything else, you just apply them to AI as well. There will be some tweaking that you have to do, and I have policies and procedures that we've developed that we offer to the companies that we work with, but it's the same type of thing. You have to take into account privacy, the healthcare issues. They've got to take into account everything they already take into account, HIPAA and so forth. With legal, you've got to take into account the privacy of your client confidentiality, all of those things. So that's a training issue internally as well, because you don't want stupid things being done by your employees just because they didn't think about it and they think that, you know, it's just me talking to this computer, and they don't think about the fact that that's going elsewhere and is going to be out there forever now. So, but it's like I said, you have the expertise already. You've been working within your industries and within your businesses, and you know how they work. You're just applying another tool. You're just putting another tool in your tool belt. A really, really good tool. But a tool nonetheless that's going to have some issues. Now, the cool thing is, and I love to see the fight over all of this, but right now, at the end of the year and through the beginning of this year, countries throughout the world, the United States, you probably saw, or you may not have seen, but the president did a lot of work surrounding AI at the end of the year, issued some executive statements about it. All of the countries and the people that are in power have been working on those ethical issues and how to control, I guess you would say, AI. So all of that is still being worked out within our countries, within international authorities and so forth. We'll see how that comes down in the coming year.
Like, whenever you utilize it, how are you going about fact?
How am I? Well, the same way you fact check anything right now. It's the same thing. Yeah, just make sure you do that research and make sure that you are 100% sure that what you are doing is actually factual. There's actually right now in Louisiana a proposal to change one of the rules by which attorneys must follow, procedural rules, and it's defining how artificial intelligence, if it's used in filing legal documents or used in the research to file legal documents, must be identified. You must certify that you're using it, etc. And I forget what the actual wording of it is. But there's a lot of attorneys that are saying we don't need this because we already have that responsibility to make sure that we are using the best information. We're following the rules ethically. We're certifying that what we're doing is true and factual, and you know, all the list of things. We already have to do those types of things. So you don't need a new rule. Well, I appreciate it so much, and if you have any questions, you've got my contact information. If you want a card, I have some of those, and I'm more than happy to take phone calls. If you've got other organizations that want somebody to come out and just do kind of a general talk about this, I'm more than happy to do that. Zachary is my home, so I'm adamant about making sure that the community that I love is doing well, and so I'm more than happy to be able to help in any way that I can. So I appreciate it. Thank you.